All right, time for a big announcement on Project Dreams. We've had thousands of producers asking about it. A lot of people seeing just little hints of the interesting stuff Drew's been doing in his studio, essentially. For those of you guys who don't know, in 2020, we wanted to start the year with a new project in a completely new direction. We started thinking about what makes music timeless. What makes certain music you can listen to for decades and other music kind of phase out. And one of the things we realized is that there was a lot of lost recording techniques that people used in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that gave your music a certain crisp, like crunch vibe to every single sound, drum, and recording that a lot of the newer music kind of didn't have. And we're like, why doesn't this stuff have this certain type of sound? And you see certain plugins trying to go for that retro feeling, even like RC20 Sketch Cassette, even some people doing certain EQ techniques to try to make their stuff sound worse, to replicate that kind of old retro feeling. And what we realized is that instead of trying to recreate something like that in a DAW, let's try to do it actually like they did in the past. Let's try to get that old school analog gear. Let's try to get these cassette tapes. What we realized is if we get a bunch of interesting recordings, instead of processing everything through the DAW on Project Dreams, we have run every single sample, loop, melody, and drum sample through vintage gear. And a lot of this gear, by the way, is not stuff, if not only is it not cheap, it's hard to find in working condition. Like a lot of the stuff you guys are probably gonna see more in the videos. One of our buddies, Dallas, actually, who was working with Drew, burned a hole in these cassette tapes, ran the tape out of it, put it across random stuff, and they were actually degrading the quality of the tape on purpose because all the different atmosphere environments or putting a magnet up to it or trying to mess it up and degrade that quality actually adds little bits of golden character to the sounds themselves. A lot of stuff you see these plugins trying to replicate, but we're actually doing it in real time with the real equipment. So we're getting stuff, putting into the DAW, we're running it back into these cassette tapes, doing crazy stuff with it, and then running it back into the DAW instead of using software. And the results has not been something that you can replicate. You cannot replicate this kind of stuff using a DAW. You have to actually get the cassette tapes and get some of this vintage gear. When we discovered how good that sounded, that's what took us from, instead of doing, another EDM project, another hip hop project per se, we're like, let's try to make a sound library that can give you a vintage sound that'll make you, that any sample, any drum sample you use, feel like you've heard it before from a distant memory or your childhood or something like that, because it just has so much feeling and drenched in everything. It's a certain vibe that's honestly hard to describe, but a lot of you guys have downloaded Eternity already, which is essentially a taste of this. It's actually over 600 samples, but Project Dreams is going to be a much larger scale project. So we're actually going to be dropping this thing on Tuesday, March 3rd. We're dropping 1,500 licenses of Project Dreams, and the reason we're keeping this thing exclusive is because honestly, it's not for everybody. If you're a producer just likes to make stuff for fun and just put random beats up, and you don't really care about some of this quality and this character in your sound and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with that. But for the people who are really passionate about discovering new sounds, discovering ways to make your music stand out and go for that timeless feeling and have attention to detail, I think you guys are really going to enjoy this thing. And then I think that Project Dreams is going to take your music to the point of being, maybe what feels like a random upload by a bunch of different artists to something like, wow, what is that person doing different? What is it about their drums that's making it sound that way? And a lot of it's going to be this processing we're doing. So I think you guys will be really excited about it. All right, if you're interested in Project Dreams and all the updates and surprises we have coming with it, below this video or somewhere on this page, there's a button that says join the early access list. Just put your email and phone number in. For everybody on that early access list, we're actually going to give you a chance to get Project Dreams before the public release. So that way, if you want to secure one of those 1,500 copies, this is going to be your best bet. Anyways, we got a lot of big news coming about this, so keep an eye out. Peace.